Allison Barrie has been a licensed practitioner for 22 years and became a member of RCCSL in 1993. She is a third-generation religious scientist, with her mother and grandmother leading the way into New Thought. As a child and teen, she attended church services in New York City with Dr. Raymond Charles Parker and in New Jersey with Dr. Tom Johnson. Her mother was a practitioner. At RCCSL, she has been called to serve in numerous ministries, such as teaching certificated classes, we all know that, thank you, and being the educational ministry lead, managing the bookstore, heading up the ministry of prayer, creating an environmental visioning group, and long-standing service on the Core Council Budget Committee. Presently, in the transition period while RCCSL searches for a new senior minister, Allison has acted as an ecclesiastical lead for the center and a member of the Core Council. She has a bachelor's degree in history and economics from Duke University and a master's in business administration from UC Riverside. In her past work life, she has been a financial analyst, a marketing research analyst, a grant writer, grant administrator, and a program manager for a at-risk youth. She and her husband, Doug, share a love of community, volunteering, gardening, and above all else, laughing. So do we. And their dog, Rocco, definitely rules the household. Please help me welcome awesome practitioner, Allison Barrie.
How fun to be here on our Yankee Day. I love it. Frank Conley was over here going, what did you say when he was dancing? I forget. It was something kind of cool. But anyway, it's very fun and, of course, an honor to be here. So let's start out with Ernest Holmes. A Song of Joy. There is a song upon my lips today. It sings of the glad heart and the happy ways of life. I will listen to my song, for it carols to me the glad tidings of great joy of love and life. It tells me of the wondrous journey of the soul and the boundless life in which my life is hid. I am filled with joy and born of eternal day. Child of all good, you are born of eternal day. There is no evening of the soul, for it shall live forever. It is deathless and perfect, complete and one with the everlasting. No thought of tomorrow can disturb the calm of those who know that life is one eternal day. No fear can enter where love reigns, and reason keeps faith with hope. The thoughts of the tomorrows and the yesterdays are swallowed up in the great realization of the perfect here and the complete now. Today, I completely accept my wholeness. That beautiful? Those, of course, are meditations written by Ernest Holmes, the founder of religious science, author of our textbook of that same name, Science of Mind. And I always feel the vibration of his consciousness shining through his words. I do believe we're here by divine appointment. No accidents today, so welcome. And we are in the perfect here and the complete now, on a wondrous journey of the soul. And the truth is, right here, right now, we're whole and complete. We're one with God. And of course, our spiritual nature is wholeness. So the theme for this month at most Centers for Spiritual Living is Living Science of Mind. And the title of my talk today, as you see up there, is Thinking Affirmatively. If you've noticed, all of the Sunday talks in 2018 are taken from a book called Living Science of Mind. It looks a little different nowadays. This is an older version. These are a series of essays by Ernest Holmes every talk title corresponds to an essay in here. So I encourage, first of all, if you don't already have the book, get it. Go see Casey in the bookstore and get it. Check out our talk titles, look up the essay, read it so that you're really actively involved in Sunday service. And an easy way to do it is to get on our website and click on the complete list of 2018 talk titles for every Sunday in this year. And the commercial is, our website is riversidecsl.org, so do that. And before we delve into our topic this morning, I also wanted to note that often in centers for spiritual living centers, January is typically known as Back to Basics Month. And so speakers endeavor to explain in the very simplest of terms what Science of Mind is all about. Because our language can sometimes be a little clunky, I'll admit. Usually what's covered is the first 4 chapters of the textbook. Everything is there. Our whole basic beliefs are there. So I could assign you that to read the first 4 chapters. The teacher and you might want to do that, but there's a much easier way. There is a fabulous, really short article in the current issue of Science of Mind magazine, and it's called Spirituality 101. And so the author gives you the essence of what our teachers are about. So this is from Dennis Merritt Jones, The Essence of Science of Mind. Boils down to God is everything. We could stop right there, but I'll go a little more. God is our point of origin, and nothing can come between us and God ever. In other words, God, the thing itself, is all there is. And that being so, there's only one. We're all one with God. We can't be separate. So the only thing that ever needs forever in healing is our sense of separation. That's it. And as a universal principle in presence, God operates in, through, and as everyone by means of an impartial law of cause and effect. And it manifests life as we believe. In other words, it's known to us as we believe. Changing the way we think about our conditions cause the power of the universe to change those conditions to make our lives better. Change your thinking, change your life is our tagline. And William Shakespeare puts it like this: nothing is unless our thinking makes it so. So let's talk about what it means to think affirmatively. As always, I like to start with definitions. Webster says that to affirm something means to maintain that something is true. But what does affirmation mean, or affirmative mean, in the spiritual context? Well, the best metaphysical dictionary I know of is called The Revealing Word by Charles Fillmore. He's the co-founder of Unity, our sister church, and he defines the act of affirmation as follows. It's the yes action of the mind, the declaring of truth with a capital T, that's ultimate truth. The mental movement that asserts confidently and persistently the truth of being in the face of all appearances to the contrary. Fillmore also defines the purpose of affirmation: to establish in consciousness a broad understanding of the divine principles on which all life and existence depend. By affirming truth, we are lifted out of false thinking into the consciousness of spirit. So through affirmative prayer, then, we do align ourselves with spiritual truth. So our way of prayer, indeed, is not one that is beseeching God out there. It is being within ourselves to affirm what we know as spiritual truth. Now, in this essay, Holmes gives us words we can say daily to prepare our minds to pray affirmatively. So I'm going to ask you to repeat after me. I do have faith.
I do have faith.
Let's make it strong, okay? I do have conviction.
I do have conviction.
I do believe.
I do believe.
I do know and understand.
I do know and understand
That there is a power greater than I am.
that there is a power greater than
I do realize that I can use it.
I do realize that I can use it.
There is nothing in me
There is nothing in me
that can doubt, deny, or limit this power.
that can doubt, deny, or limit this power.
My whole being accepts it,
My whole being accepts it,
both consciously and unconsciously.
both consciously and unconsciously.
Beautiful? Okay, it's going to be like that. And by the way, I do have a handout. That's the old-fashioned thing in me of some of the quotes that I'm going to be sharing today. And so as you go out today, you can take a little handout and use these in your study work. So Holmes goes on to say these powerful words. There is a power for good in the universe greater than you are, and you can use it. First, let's begin with the thought that we are all united with an invisible force which is creative, and that we are already one with universal mind which can do anything. Next, let's consider that we are centers within this mind, that the sum total of all our thoughts is either silently attracting good to us or repelling it from us. And third, let us know that we can change our thinking, and in doing so, cause the law of good to act affirmatively for us instead of negatively. So these 3 points are just another way of saying what this teaching is all about, kind of in a nice, easy format. And what I really love about what he says there is that it's all about the sum total of our thoughts that creates our experiences. That is the tendency of our thought. So it's not an individual thought. You know, now and again, negative stuff pops up in our minds. And sometimes we can get a little superstitious about, oh my gosh, am I going to cause whatever that is? No, it's a tendency of our thoughts. We can always course correct. And how do we look at the tendency of our thoughts? Well, there's 2 instances I can think of. Maybe it hasn't happened to you, but at one time in my life, a number of years ago, I was really, I'm going to just label it in dire straits. And so when you find yourself in those sorts of situations, you absolutely have your huge clue that the tendency of your thoughts are just not aligned with truth. So that's pretty obvious. Other times, getting to the tendency of our thoughts can be a little more subtle. The vast majority of our lives can be just perfect and wonderful in every aspect, and yet there are these little paper cuts of experiences where we can be blocked. And so it does take some spiritual detective work to get to the underlying beliefs that are causing any kind of limitation. And I get some clues very definitely that something's amiss, even if my life is overall just terrific. It always has pictures in my body temple. There's either an uneasiness in my gut or just some sort of a little part of my body is crying out to me, like I've been having a shoulder pain. So I get to kind of look at that, am I shouldering too much? What's that all about? What are my beliefs? So on and so forth. But I do want to give you the example of when it's absolutely obvious that I needed a spiritual bypass. I'm going to call it like spiritual open heart surgery, so to speak, to get back to right thinking. I had a period of time in the 1980s where I drifted away from religious science. I was trying other churches and things and stuff, and no churches and things and stuff, and in about 1990, my marriage was crumbling. We had lost our business, so both my husband and I had lost our jobs and employment, or losing our home, and then he got cancer, and 5 months later had died, passed away. And so everything that fell on me was all the medical debt, the home debt, the business debt, and I was really in one of those states of everything had crumbled, emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually. And I don't really necessarily believe that I caused all of that. You know, sometimes you get a little old said that. But I think that some things are not a direct result of our thinking. But what I absolutely do now, and I'm very clear on, is that how we react to and handle any conditions that come at us are certainly in the realm of what we have control over and can change. So needless to say, I was in a pretty dark place. And I really wondered if I ever would be able to have financial freedom again. I wondered if I could ever be in a good relationship. I had all sorts of doubts and fears. And by one of those miracles, I made my way to this center in 1991, the last week in December, and they were having a foundations class in 2 weeks. So I signed up. And much like what the class I just started with, Jim and Kim O'Connor, there's usually one in January. And that 10-week class is life-changing because every spiritual principle is discussed and covered, and you do lots of treatment. And so I got to look at all of these beliefs, a lot of them centered on worthiness. And almost immediately, as I was practicing and talking with this small group and really doing the work, I began to demonstrate unexpected income and a renewed sense of optimism, I'll say, creative opportunities, all sorts of things changed. Life just transformed in that moment. That's why I'm such a big supporter of classes. They just change your life. There's a wise Zen saying that says, you cannot stop birds from flying around your head, but you can prevent them from making a nest in your hair. So I like to remember that. Dr. Michael Beckwith writes, as you begin to mature spiritually, you discover that although you cannot stop the world's chatter about lack and limitation from whirling around you, you can prevent it from lodging in your awareness, landing on your head. How? By actively practicing the presence of God. The mind develops the habit of continuously turning in the direction of spirit for intuitive guidance, wisdom, joy, peace, truth, and love. So I'm not suggesting that you should deny those noisy birds of limitation that they sometimes do fly around, but by staying our attention on the changeless reality of our God self, you will experience an inner freedom from outer distractions. Julia Cameron, author of The Artist's Way and many books on creativity, writes that often if we're blocked in an area of our life, there are likely to be underlying core negative beliefs. These beliefs can come from our parents, our culture, teachers, fearful friends, and as I mentioned above, it may take some spiritual detective work to uncover those beliefs and discard them. She suggests an exercise that I've tried and asks her students to write an affirmation that they've prepared. Write it out about 20 times just in a row. And so, for example, I'm a brilliant, prolific writer. And what she says is, as you're doing that, notice what comes up. Sometimes nothing comes up. Sometimes you're just right on board with it. But other times it might be things like, who are you kidding? It's too late for that. Is there really a book in me? Those sorts of things that she calls blurts. I like that word, blurts. So, and what those are informative to get at some of those negative beliefs. And so she says, just write about them, write where they come from. And it's always possible to then change those words into affirmations. And it just is signaling that we've got more work to do. There's always more work to do. So before I fall asleep at night, I usually write 5 things I'm grateful for. I love to read an inspirational quote or so, and I either focus on just stating a question that I'd like my higher self to work on as I'm sleeping, or I might just say an affirmation. And I came across a quote that I have used a lot, and I love it. It's by Martha Graham. There is vitality, a life force, an energy, a quickening that is translated because there's only one of you in all time. This expression is unique. And if you block it, it will never exist through any other medium and will be lost. Now, Eric Butterworth, an amazing minister from Unity, writes, an affirmation of truth is an effective means of synchronizing our consciousness with the flow of life. Thought either places us consciously in the universal flow, or it frustrates the flow. When the mind is stayed on the God thought of wholeness, we're synchronized with the flow of life. And so in this book of the same title, In the Flow of Life, let me just read something really briefly. There are many definitions of God, but none quite so insightful as this. God is a sphere whose center is everywhere and whose circumference is nowhere. A sphere whose center is everywhere? Impossible. But wait, if the center is everywhere, it must be where I am. Could this be the meaning of omnipresence? A point of life and light, present everywhere, as each individualized expression. If this is true, then I am the center of God awareness. So the great truth taught by mystics of all ages is that life is lived from within out. This means the whole universe is concentrated at the point where you are. You are its living enterprise. However, the fullness of this universal support comes through you and not to you. So it's not coming to you, through you. As Scripture says, the kingdom of God is within you, Luke 17:21. The kingdom within is the realm of all potentiality, all substance, all life, all love, all peace. And closely aligned with Butterworth and other New Thought writers is Mr. Joel Goldsmith. In practicing the presence, he says, the beginning of wisdom is the realization that the kingdom of God is within us, and that it must flow out from us. God's grace is our sufficiency in all things. In other words, God is the source of all good. God is our sufficiency. So repeat after me. God is my sufficiency.
God is my sufficiency.
God is the source of all good.
God is the source of all good.
God's grace is my sufficiency in all things.
God's grace is my sufficiency in all things.
Yes, absolutely. And these are wonderful things, these quotes I'm giving you, and just definitions of God. The idea of the kingdom of God is within. Those are things to take into meditation, to really, our purpose is to embody it. We can have an intellectual agreement with it, but once we shift out into a heart embodiment of the spiritual truth, everything changes. And Goldsmith also says that giving of oneself gets us in the flow. We release the flow by giving love, forgiveness, cooperation, service, money. And so I have a quick little vignette from Ram Dass. It comes from a compilation called Handbook for the Heart. He's talking about giving and doing love. I was giving a series of lectures in New York City. Every night, taking the bus up 3rd Avenue, I got the same extraordinary bus driver. Every night it was rush hour in one of the busiest cities in the world. But he had a warm word and a caring presence for each person who got on the bus. He drove as if he were sculling a boat down the river, flowing through the traffic rather than resisting it. Everyone who got on that bus was less likely to kick the dog that evening, be otherwise hostile and unloving, because of the loving space that driver had created. Yet all he was doing was driving his bus. He wasn't a therapist or a famous spiritual teacher, but a teacher nonetheless. He was simply being love. Remember, we are all affecting the world every moment, whether we mean to or not. Our actions and states of mind matter because we're so deeply interconnected with one another. Working on our own consciousness is the most important thing that we are doing at any moment, and being love is the supreme creative act. So love is always the answer. To find love, the self-givingness of God, being supreme creative act. And love's companions, of course, are kindness, compassion, and gratitude. So what's the main takeaway for how to live the science of mind? How do we practice the presence, live from within out, stay tuned with our divine true nature? The answer is spiritual practice. All of our speakers this month have mentioned it. Reverend Ruth told us that going into the silence changed everything for her. Reverend Suzanne said that in meditation, including walking meditation, much like taking a trek up to the top of Mount Rubidoux, that through that meditation we get a higher perspective. And Reverend Ron talked about quieting our mind, connecting with our source, listening to that still small voice. So once again, from Marianne Williamson, if we wake up in the morning and head directly into the turmoil of the world, getting on Facebook, reading the headlines, watching or listening to the news as the status quo defines it, then the mind has no opportunity to escape the world's hysteria. But if we meditate and pray before we see the headlines, or at least before we head off into our worldly activities, then our hope and faith remain firm. I think we're on earth to bring healing to the world, but we can hardly do so when we ourselves are too wounded. We're all heir to the fear that can run rampant in this culture. When we do not turn toward God, we become expressions of hysteria. The world's greatest need, I believe, is for spiritual practice. Pascal wrote, all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. In the Course of Miracles, it says that 5 minutes spent with the Holy Spirit in the morning is enough to guarantee that Spirit will be in charge of our thought forms throughout the day. I believe that. That's what we're talking about here. Whether the Spirit of love is in charge of our thought forms, and if it is, we're more charitable, we give people a break. We bless instead of condemn. We support instead of deride. We give instead of attack. We love instead of fear. Michael Beckwith puts it this way: when you send out a real soul call to God through meditation and time in stillness, infinite omniscience responds. When both eyes are placed on God, you have your ticket to transformation. You buy it with the spiritual coin of wisdom, humility, faith, and detachment. So let's just bookend this talk with another meditation by Ernest Holmes in his words. The secret way. There is a secret way of the soul which all may know. It is the way of peace and love. The secret way leads into places of joy and into the house of good. It is the way of the Spirit, and all may enter who will. I tread the secret way of good, the path of peace, and I enter into the secret place of the Most High. The secret place of the Most High is within me. So let's close our eyes and turn within. Just feeling and sensing indeed that we are in the midst of pure spirit, that secret place dwells within, the kingdom of God is within, that there's a universal principle, which is there's only one. That God is all there is. That this one presence, this one power, the source of pure potentiality, is all substance, is all love, is all peace. It is indeed just that first cause of life. Everything unfolds from it, with it. And because God is everywhere present, God is ever available, I know that I'm inseparably one with it. A powerful, radiant expression of the Most High God. And that's the same truth I know for and about each and every person within the sound of my voice. We are God expressions. We are one with the one. We are individually just brilliant and at one with the wholeness and harmony and joy and peace and beauty, loving kindness, wisdom, intelligence, goodness, grace of God. It individualizes in through and as us. So right here and right now, I speak my word. I know and declare that each one of us is on the beautiful, joyous path of spirit. That indeed we are open and receptive to a spiritual truth, to embodying that which we know is true, and that is that we cannot be separate from God, that we are one with the one, and everything unfolds from that premise. So I do know absolutely that at a deep and profound level we have embodied this, that indeed if there's any sense of separation, any limitation, any dis-ease in our body temples, we just set that aside and instead affirm and claim that we are whole, healed, and free in this moment. That if there is an attention that needs to be focused on any lack of loving kindness in our lives, that indeed instead we claim with just deep assurance that perfect love casts out all fear. So we claim love. We embody it. We embody that deep expression of compassion and kindness and forgiveness in all of our affairs, and watch just harmonious relationships be restored. I'm knowing absolutely that if there is a need for fulfillment, creativity, that indeed we are open and receptive to the whisperings of spirit and divine guidance into our right and perfect place. And that our lives are fulfilled beyond measure. That indeed good among good among good outpictures in our lives as we have our minds stayed on spirit. So I give great high thanks for these teachings. I give great high thanks for the power and the presence of God expressing in through and as us uniquely, beautifully, healing any sense of separation, and indeed embracing that experience of divine wholeness now and always. So with much love, I release these words into the action of the law. I know